Hey guys, my name is Andrea and this is Con Amor Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance to listen to my intro episode, it's a short 9-10 minute video of just a couple facts about me, if you care to know. But I am very excited to get into this first episode. This first episode is very close to my heart currently, and hasn't been talked about, and I think it needs to be talked about. I'm going to hit y'all hard with this one because this is what's currently going on in my life. And I just think that there's somebody out there that could use this information as well. You never know when someone's going to need it. Without further ado, let's just get started. So, the title, Jesus and Therapy. It's probably got you guys like, what would it, those are two different, random things, but you know what? I'm gonna let y'all know what is going on. I have started going to therapy, and it is crazy how it has affected me in a good way, mentally, physically. I don't know if you feel like therapy helps you. And I say this because not that I was against therapy, but I just thought that it was not for me. Just constantly thinking like, why would I pay someone all this money to tell me what to do or listen to me vent? I can just journal that and I'll be fine and sleep it off and I'll get over it or whatever. I feel like that has always been my mentality for the past 10 years or so. I did therapy once, probably in my early 20s, went one time and thought it was a complete waste of time. I think at that time I had like good insurance and I was going through it. So I felt like maybe I needed it. Not because I needed it, I just felt like I needed to vent to somebody that could possibly help me. But when I left that office that day, I just thought it was a complete waste of time. So I never looked back. I just thought that it wasn't for me. Nothing against it. I have friends who go to therapy and constantly preach therapy. And I just felt like sorry, that was my dog. But I just felt like it wasn't for me. And that's okay. Because now we're here and I'm going to explain to you guys why I am now in therapy. Also, if you hear my dog, I'm sorry. She's gonna be barking. She wants to make her grand entrance into my podcast. But so the title, Jesus and Therapy, I think I wanted to make it short and sweet. They do tend to say that if you engage in therapy or seek assistance, somehow it's almost a sign of unbelief, suggesting that you're solely relying on Jesus is insufficient. And I don't think that's true. I feel like this perspective implies that undergoing therapy might challenge Jesus' authority and sovereignty of God or as God. This perspective, it's kind of insane, because and I say that because we have people who avoid seeking therapy or avoid seeking that assistance, even when they feel like they need it. They're recognizing that they need it, but they're like, you know what, that's not for me. And you know what, that was me. And I've always been, about God and that's how I grew up. So I had that mentality of like, if I'm going to therapy, like, that's me saying that God can't do what he's supposed to do. And there is people that they recognize that they need it and they fear it. I am so sorry if you guys can hear my dog, I am so sorry. But they fear the judgment from others, like their family or friends. And I also felt like that because I felt like therapy was like a sign of weakness, and therapy was like, you know what, like I feel like I'm gonna have people that are gonna judge me. Like, I feel like if you go to therapy, it's because you're depressed or you're sad or you are suicidal. And that is not always the case, y'all. I am living proof of that. Like, I'm telling you, I'm living proof of that. Jesus is enough. Plain and simple, Jesus is enough. It's important to remember that while Jesus provides complete healing, restoration, and contentment on your physical, mental, and spiritual levels, God also bestows gift upon us. He blesses us with all these gifts, and we're talking different things. Doctors, therapists, for one, police officers, those are gifts. Like, he puts their hands on them, and he puts his hands on all of us, but there's certain things that they have to do for us to guide us, to protect us, and that's through him. It's through him. These gifts can manifest in various forms, such as therapy and counseling, conversations that enable us to better serve and love him the way that we need to. And again, that's going through counseling and therapy. People think that their therapy is a potential substitute for God, which necessarily is not the case, y'all. It can be a way of complementing him, or complementing our spiritual journey rather than replacing it. Like, we're not replacing it. We're not replacing him. We're not questioning him. This is more of a physical, we're in, the physical world of help, of assistance. And I think they just think that it's a substitute for him. Like, oh, if you're going to therapy, like, you don't believe in God. And no, guys, that's not the case. I am walking proof that is not the case. The scripture that comes to mind is 1 Corinthians 3:19. It says, "The wisdom of the world is foolishness with God." And when you look more into the context of this conversation, he's simply just saying that the knowledge of the world apart from the Spirit of God is absolutely nothing when the two come together. That is when it means something. So that is why we need to find the balance of therapy. But also think of it, as a tool. It's technically a tool for us. We're not substituting God, but complementing him, because aside from God's knowledge, the knowledge of the world is literally nothing. Where do we get all of this from? Obviously, God. So I feel like that is my way of looking at things. You have to use it, but also having the Spirit to guide you with it as well. I realized that my therapist's job isn't to heal me, because only God can do that. Like, God can, he's the only one that has the power to internally heal me. But it can assist me, it can assist, me, or, kind of getting into the nitty gritty of like really assessing those errors in my life that do need healing. I feel like a lot of us, we're in denial sometimes. Like, for example, me, I'm always in denial. I feel like, oh, I'm okay. Like, I'll get over this, or whatever the case may be. But that first step is admitting, y'all. Like, that first step is admitting. And the stigma of mental health is insane. Literally, like, insane. Because when it comes to mental health and therapy, it can switch up on you. It switches up because when you're taking your medicine for your headache or some pain relief, it's fine, right? Like, okay, I have a headache, I'm going to take medicine. Boom. That's like your first reaction. You're in pain, you're going to take medication for it. But when it comes to your mental health and you're in therapy, like, okay, this is something internally hurting me. I need to seek professional help because medicine's not going to cure it. People question it. People question therapy. Oh, why are you going to therapy? You don't need to go to therapy. Blah, 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 blah. I've learned to not feel ashamed of therapy. Often I would get told, like, just pray. And just pray, why aren't you praying about it? All you have to do is talk to God and stop worrying so much. And The list goes on and on, y'all. But at the end of the day, this is all a part of my healing process. I feel like God put his hands on my therapist to heal me or to assist in healing me and assist of, analyzing those errors in my life that need fixing, that I can't fix myself, that doctors can't fix, that medicine can't fix. And that's all okay. Literally, like, that is fine, y'all. Another scripture is Philippians 4:7. The peace of God will guard your heart and mind. The peace of God will guard your heart and mind. Ooh, it's like you're dealing with depression. The thought never really occurred to me. What happens if it's already been attacked? Yes, God's gonna guard my heart and mind, but what happens if it's already affected? What happens if he's too late, or he never got the chance to actually guard it? The healing cannot take place if there's no acknowledgement of the issue in the first place. Boom, boom, boom. Shots fired, y'all. Shots fired. You have to acknowledge it. You cannot just put it in the back burner. Trust me when I say this. Like, this is some real stuff, y'all. And I'm putting Bible verses in here just kind of like to back up my responses and kind of explain to you guys what I mean and when I say things, it's because it's in the Bible. It literally says it. Just keep a note. The healing cannot take place if you're in denial. If there's no acknowledgement, there's not going to be any healing. You're going to be stuck in that hole. If you don't realize that you're in a hole and you think everything's fine and dandy and it's really not, you're never really going to get that help. The first step is admitting, y'all. The first step is admitting. I'm going to tell y'all something. Denial initially clouded my perception of anxiety and depression. Again, I never thought I was in a state where I needed help, where I didn't believe in the therapist or seeing somebody and venting to somebody. I thought, no way was this happening. No way am I going to go see somebody. What could I possibly be sad about? I'm healthy. My kids are healthy. My family, my loved ones are healthy. But again, that first step is admitting to healing to take place. I was in denial for a good while until I felt like I no longer could stand it. And that is why I am seeing a therapist. While prayer is valuable, there are situations where talking through issues with someone is necessary. There are issues where you have to talk to somebody, y'all. You cannot just bottle it up. You cannot. Yes, although journaling does help, because hello, I also journal a lot. And I've also gotten that from my grandma. My grandma used to journal, and she would always just have random things, good, bad, sad, all of that. And I kind of took over from that because it's important for your mental health, and it helps. My therapist is not available 24/7. I mean, maybe she is, but it comes with the price. But I mean, at the end of the day, I do what I have to do. And she also suggested journaling. So if you are not into journaling, I highly recommend so. I feel like these issues, when you're talking with someone, it just kind of feels good. Another positive side from this is that she doesn't know me. She doesn't know my family. She doesn't know my friends, who I'm with, who I haven't been with. She doesn't know any of that. I'm only giving her what I'm telling her, what I feel is kind of hurting me and what I need help on. And that's really it. And I feel like that's the good side of it, because we're constantly venting to our friends, or we seek advice from our friends, and they know everything, and they know who you're talking about, and they know what, they may know of that person, or they know you too much and too well to where it's like, oh, I'm going to tell her this, and honestly, like, it's not just us women. men too. I feel like men constantly live in the state of denial. If we keep in this process with that mindset, nothing is ever going to change, y'all. Like, nothing is ever going to change. And I feel like men do live in that constant denial state, which we're all here, you know. I feel like mental health for men is huge these days, because I feel like society just kind of makes it out to be this grand thing, like, oh, he's sad, or that men just kind of have like this persona that they have to constantly be strong. And that's no, it's frowned upon when we admit that we are depressed, right? Like, or we're dealing with anxiety or some kind of internal issue. But it has to be brought to the light, because God can't touch what you don't give him access to. God can't touch what you don't give him access to. Let that sink in, y'all, because that's some real stuff. You're going to face those trials and tribulations, and you're going to go through it, but it's nothing, one, that you can't overcome, and two, it's, sorry if you guys can hear my dog, but two, it's not anything that you have to deal with alone. You know, sometimes it feels like if you are in Christ, that it's not something that, you know, you're supposed to be dealing with, or that you should just pray more, or whatever it may look like, you know, out of ignorance. And out of ignorance, you feel like you're not allowed to feel certain things or do certain things. And I felt that until I went through it myself, until the very thing that I judged became the same thing I was going through. That's when my mind changed. My perspective completely shifted. And a lot of it came out of ignorance and also out of pride. Again, I was prideful. I was in denial. I didn't believe that I needed to go pay someone, you know, to vent, or, you know, to help me. And I believe in God, and I believe in prayer. And why would I need to go see somebody that, you know, that doesn't know me? You know, this will pass. I'm fine. I'm okay. Like, just me being overwhelmed and in denial. Like, as time went on, I realized I was in a season of depression episodes. It was like, it just comes in waves. You know, I'm fine one minute, the next I'm not. And now that I have experienced it, my mindset and perspective of it just completely changed. It made me realize that no one is really exempt to this. This is real stuff, y'all. No one is exempt to this. Anyone can feel these things. And it doesn't matter how disciplined you are, if you do everything right, if you pray every day, if you have the strongest faith, that this attack literally has no limits, no boundaries on your mental health. While God promises that weapons formed against us won't prosper, this doesn't mean they won't be formed. I'm gonna say it again, y'all. I'm gonna say it for the people in the back. While God promises that weapons formed against us won't prosper, that does not mean that they will not be formed. Recognizing this reality is essential for navigating mental health challenges. You have to understand that God can't give you anything that you can't handle. Loving God with all of our mind is hindered when our minds are cluttered. It's plain and simple. Addressing mental health initially is necessary for serving God effectively. Period. Point blank, period. Your mind is constantly cluttered. There's no way that you can serve him effectively. Another scripture, Matthew 22:37, it says, love the Lord, your God, with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your mind. Well, the issue is, I see that, but I can't love the Lord with all of my mind when there's so many things occupying it. Mic drop. Well, I feel like we need to be more intentional about this topic of mental health because we need to declutter our minds and make room. I mean, we have to make room for him. We can't love him and serve him properly when there's 1,000 things in our mind going at 100 miles per hour. You know, it's ignorant to say that God doesn't care about your mental health when the health of your mind is going to predicate how well you serve him. Let me say that one more time for the people in the back. It's ignorant to say God does not care. It's ignorant to say he doesn't care about your mental health when the health of your mind is going to predicate how well you serve him. That's it, y'all. Our minds are the only thing that God cannot control. If it's that powerful, we have to guard it. We have to do what we have to do to work on our soul salvation. Literally, our soul is everything. Working on our soul salvation, I think a part of that can consist of therapy in terms of checking and aligning and getting your mind right, you know, your will and your emotions in balance. It's so you're in a good place of mental stability, I think. Ultimately, therapy helped me. It helped me stay on track and maintain clarity, my mental clarity, guiding me toward God, closer to God. I firmly believe that God can work through various means to fulfill his will on earth. Just let go and let God. Y'all ever heard that before? Let go and let God, literally. And lastly, y'all, it's okay to be vulnerable. Be kind to yourself. Be kind. I mean, although it's easier said than done, that's all it takes sometimes. That's all it takes sometimes. And all of it really is a process, but it's not something that God can't bring you from. And seeking therapy is nothing you should shy away from. And I hope that this message gets across to somebody on the other side. And when I'm looking at the camera, I'm kind of visualizing an audience, and I just kind of I feel like today I was preaching, which that was not the plan, but I felt like I needed to get my point across because this is currently what I'm going through and what's helped me so far. And I'm going to say something that my therapist told me, and it's her way of saying it to others, is give yourself grace. Give yourself some grace. Sometimes we're constantly at 100 miles per hour that we don't realize, like, we need to back up, and we need to thank him for everything that we have. And although our life may not be perfect, or sometimes, we may feel like something's going on and why is this happening, and so on and so forth. Again, he can't give you anything that he can't handle. And I just hope that I get my message across to somebody out there. And I want to know what, if you are in therapy, what has helped you, and what are your likes, what are your dislikes about it? I really want to know what your thoughts are on that. I think that's it. I think that is it, y'all. I think I'm done preaching the word. Well, honestly, I did not mean to talk about God like that, but again, I'm a Jesus lover, and I'm gonna throw in a couple scriptures here and there, so beware. This is your fair warning. But I just want to talk about real stuff, like I'm not gonna sugarcoat anything, and this is such a broad announcement, I feel like, because nobody knows that I am now in therapy. I think probably my sister, and that's it. So this is kind of a huge thing for me. I'm going all in on this for you guys. So what are your thoughts on therapy? And I really want to know what has helped you overcome, your trials and tribulations. But yeah, if you've gotten this far, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.